This is TG with Tech Made Easy. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. And today what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at 3 5-bay enclosures that you hook up directly to your PC, your laptop, your mini PC through a USB port. We're going to check the performance of these, the different price points, how they copy, how they work over the network. I made a video not too long ago using an Oracle 5-bay enclosure with a mini PC. Since then, I have found that I have been able to double my performance on that Oracle 5-bay enclosure, and then I wanted to test out the Server-NAS and a TerraMaster 6-bay enclosure. So let's go ahead, jump into it. Let's test out the performance of these enclosures. Let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about these 5-bay enclosures. And the Oracle, if you've seen my video before on the mini PC and the Oracle that I used on that, stay tuned, because I was able to get more performance out of this, and I'll explain how that happened or why that happened. But what I want to do is I'm doing 5 bays, because if you get 5 bays, you have a lot of flexibility on hard drive space and your RAID. So when we go over these, you can get cheaper ones if you go with the 4 and 2 bay. But I wanted to start with the 5 bay is a really good one if you're looking at doing a video server or just lots of storage space. So then I went ahead and we did this. So this Oracle, we'll go over the details in that in a minute. The Server-NAS we did as well, and the TerraMaster. And what I want to do is I want to test performance. So these are going to be at a different price point as well. So let's talk about the Oracle. So the Oracle, you have this B to A, or your USB port here. Now this one here, this is the one I'm using here, and you can actually get these a little less expensive now, around $70, but you can also, about the same price, $75, you can get this one here that's a C to C. It's a little faster, and I was reading that the controller card they put in these is a little bit more efficient than the one that I'm testing here. But I have not tested this one to see if that's true. But if it were me buying this, I'd spend a little bit more money and get the Type C one, the 3.1. But let's just go ahead and let's take a look then. What I wanted to do is because of testing with my mini PC in my other video, I wanted to do this Oracle 5-bay 10 gigabit Type C docking station, and I did purchase it, but the problem was it would not read 2 of my hard drives no matter which bay I put them in. And it kind of, because I was looking for a price range for performance in writing to these enclosures, I wanted to really go where I was getting maybe 300 or 400 megabytes writing. Well, the problem was it kind of scared me off, so I didn't repurchase it. I did return it, but I didn't repurchase it. But I wanted to stick around 150 to 175, and there are some other brands that give you this 10 gigabyte Type C, but instead I went ahead and got this Server here, and of course this is $250. I might test one. I might try that Oracle again. But it just left a bad taste in my mouth, because it was brand new and it would not accept 2 of my hard drives. I could get another hard drive and it would, and those are the same hard drives I tested with the other Oracle 5-bay, the lesser expensive one. But anyway, so we're doing this one here, and this is going to be a 10 gigabit Type C. The same with this TerraMaster. This TerraMaster, the reason why this TerraMaster was appealing to me, I'd seen it before. I wanted to test it, and it is also a 10 gigabit USB 3.2 Gen 2 connection. And so, the thing that was appealing to this is it's a 6-bay, so it gives you a little bit more flexibility. The advantage of the Server, though, is that you can pass through 2 more of these enclosures, and the same thing with that other Oracle that I showed you, and that's why I wanted to test that one. because then you could daisy chain them. And so what I was really shooting for is just shooting for 3 different price points and performances, just to see how they would perform at those 3 different price points. But unfortunately, that other Oracle, like I said, because it wouldn't accept my 2 drives and it was brand new, made me gun shy on trying to order another one. And so I went ahead and just jumped up to the Server-NAS USB 10 gigabit performance, and then this TerraMaster Type C 10 gigabit. Now, just so you know, you don't have to spend this much money. There were other brands other than the Oracle that were around the $170 price point, but also too, if you don't want as many bays, like 4 or 2 bays, then it becomes a lot less expensive as well. And so just so you know, just like on this TerraMaster, if you get a 4 bay, it's $140. So, but for right now, this is what I'm testing, and then I'm testing this on this HP mini PC. It actually has, I upgraded the RAM to 32 gigs of RAM. It does have a 500 gig NVMe drive. It's got it's using the i5 8500T, and it's 6 cores, 6 threads. But this is what I'm testing it with, is this mini PC. And the reason why I'm testing it with this mini PC is because these enclosures, to me, would be used for someone that has a laptop or a mini PC like this, but they need a lot of hard drive storage. Whether maybe they're video editing, or they're having a video library, so on and so forth. Whatever the purpose is, that someone needs some storage and they don't have the ability to put that in a PC, or don't want to spend a lot of money to acquire that same amount of storage. So anyway, this is what I'm testing with, and I will say this much. The Oracle, when I tested this originally, and if you're interested, go ahead and watch the video on me testing this with the Oracle and running Plex and transcoding. But what I found out is that on that Oracle 5 bay, I was using these USBs in the back, and these are supposed to be high performance USB ports right here. But I wasn't, the write wasn't very fast, and that was the bottleneck of this whole thing when I was using it. But what I decided to do is these are 10 gigabit ones in the front, USB ports. So I went ahead and plugged into this front one with the Oracle and got a lot, like double the performance. I don't know why, because that shouldn't have been the case. It should have been the same. And then I'm using this Type C for the other 2 drives, the Server-NAS and the TerraMaster. So I'm using this 5 gigabit USB Ethernet adapter, and the reason why I'm doing that, because again, I wanted to see what the high performance of these systems were over Ethernet as well, not just attached to the desktop. And so then now, one of the things that this particular system right here, this is my video server, my personal video server. It's an HP Z450. It's 128 gigs of RAM, 64 terabytes. Anyway, 10 cores, 10 threads, 10 gigabyte. So this is a 10 gigabyte system, but not everybody can do one of these, and maybe they don't want to. Maybe they, like it said, they have a laptop or they have a mini PC that they want something smaller to deal with. But I am going to be using this a little bit for the testing, not a lot. So I just wanted to go over that. Now, let me just talk real quick too about these really quick. So when you attach these directly to your PC, laptop or mini PC, it's considered to be a DAS, and a DAS is direct access storage. A NAS would be the server I just showed you, where the only thing I use that server for is just to access my video files, and so that would be considered a server, or a NAS, which is a network attached storage. So that's going to be the difference here. So these here are not NASs. They just connect directly to your PC and give you more hard drive space flexibility with your laptop, your mini PC, or just your maybe you have a PC in general that you can't put a lot of hard drives in. And so I've always wanted to test these out. I've never felt like they were efficient. I'm one for efficiency. I want things to work fast. And that server that I just showed you is a very fast server. I mean, it will copy files over at 10 gigabit speed, even though they're hard drives, because they are fast NAS hard drives, fast controller, so on and so forth. So I've always wanted to try these and kind of see where they fit. So let's just go ahead and test that. And so what I'm using to test these with is I'm using my Linux Mint desktop and attaching it to this mini PC using Linux Mint, but it could be Windows or it could be a Mac. It doesn't matter. That's what I just chose to test it with, but I am using a Windows desktop to copy files over the internet to this. So I'm doing this and I'm testing this in two modes: direct access mode from the mini PC, or access through the network at my home using a Windows desktop and a Linux desktop to test that efficiency and speed of these enclosures. So let's jump right into it. Okay, as I briefly mentioned, I've already tested this enclosure out, but what I didn't realize is that I tried it on different USB ports on this little mini PC, and that what happened was when I tried it on the 10 gigabit port, it really made it doubled the performance of the enclosure. And so I want to show that performance, and then we'll show the performance of the other two enclosures. And so what I want to show here is that this is my Linux desktop. It could be a Windows desktop, it could be a Mac desktop. I want to use Linux because I want to put a ZFS pool, and I made that ZFS pool here. I call it MStore, and so with the 4 terabyte drives, it gives me a little over 18 terabytes. And then because I'm doing RAID 5, then now I really only have a little over 14 terabytes of hard drive space available with RAID 5. But I called it MStore, and so when you see the MStore folder, that's going to be here running off of this mini PC in the enclosures that we're going to be demoing. So that's, I just used this GUI to create the Z pool for me. So on my desktop here, I have this folder right here called MStore on my desktop. Then this media folder is files that I have on my desktop, and again, my desktop is an Nvme drive, so it's very fast. And then this test Y is my video server, and this video server is a 10 gigabit server. Even though everything's mechanical hard drives, it will copy things over as 10 gigabit. So this Alita Battlefield Angel is 9 gigabytes. We're going to copy this over, and what you're going to see here is it will start copying fast. But one thing, I did do a read and write test, and I'll show you the results of that here in a minute. The write test on this is about 75 for the write. So what happens is a lot of this file gets thrown into memory, and then as the system says, hey, I got to start dumping this onto the enclosure, you'll see that the performance will go down, and eventually it will go down to writing at the 70 megabytes per second or 74 megabytes, and it kind of varies a little bit. It kind of jumps between that and 100 megabytes per second, as you can see here as it's going through. So it's not the zippiest thing in the world, but it works. And I would encourage you to watch my other videos. I mean, I was running like 6 transcoded videos off of this enclosure. It ran them perfect, no hitches, no anything. So now we're down to about 76 megabytes there. And again, this is just going from my desktop to the Z pool, so we're not going through the network or anything like that. Okay, so now what I want to show here, this is my video server folder, this test Y, and I'm going to go ahead and drop Alita Battle Angel over here. And what you're going to notice, it's going to start off really quick, but then it'll slow down. Again, what I have in this mini PC is a USB 5 gigabit network adapter, and so it'll drop down to 5 gigabit here, and then it'll just kind of hover around the 5 gigabit speed. But I just wanted to show you the read on this unit is very fast. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that it will read and push out as fast as your network is able to do that. And so let me show you, I did do a quick read and write test on this, and I just did the first one, and so you're talking a read speed of 4,600, almost 4,700 megabytes per second, a write speed of 75. And so that's why when we saw us copying that file over from my desktop over to the enclosure drive, it slowed down to 75. Now, what we're going to see here is how does this affect when we are using this as a server, okay? And which I think you're going to be surprised. Okay, before I go over to Windows, what I've done here on this desktop that I have my enclosure on, this mini PC, I shared this mstore folder so we could access it through Windows over a network. Then I have another Linux desktop that I've also connected to this mstore as well, and we're going to do some copying over the network to see the performance of this enclosure. And then that will basically be the tests that were set up for the other enclosures. Okay, so on this Windows desktop, I do have a 10 gigabit networking card. Now, I do realize that a lot of people using this, the majority of people out there probably still have 1 gigabit. And this is going to work fine with 1 gigabit when you copy files over. But what I wanted to show here is I wanted to show copying this 5 gigabit file over. And what you're going to see here is that, and this is pretty much, it retains this speed pretty much through any size video that I copy over. So I won't, because of time constraint, this Nvme is 30 gigabytes, and it stayed at this relatively at this same speed. Now it has something to do now, which is kind of odd because the write speed of that enclosure is really only 75 megabytes per second, but when we're copying over from it through the network, it actually performs a little higher than that. I don't know why it does that, but it's great. It gives you a little bit more performance. So I just wanted to show that, and then what I wanted to show here too is let's copy this Alita over, and I just want to show that I'm actually let's go ahead and copy this over. And what you're going to notice here, again, I'm using a 5 gigabit USB network adapter on that mini PC, and it is copying over at the 5 gigabits. And that's one of the reasons why I have a 10 gigabit card in this system, is because I wanted to show that. And every once in a while when I've tested this, it'll do a little dip like that, but for the most part it stays pretty consistent, reading from the enclosure and using the full bandwidth of the network adapter. A Linux desktop that is we are housing the or running the enclosure, and this one is the Server-NAS enclosure. And so let's go ahead and test out the speed of it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and copy over this Nvme file. It's 30 gigabytes, and the reason why I'm using such a big file is because it does transfer pretty fast. So to really have it slow down where it actually gets to its transfer rate, I have to do a bigger file, because the smaller files will transfer really quick, and you can't see the true speed. So right now it kind of started around 600 or 700 megabytes per second. Now it's slowing down, and it's going to get down to its true transfer speed and write speed to that enclosure. And again, you know, and I don't know if you can see this depending on what your screen you're using, but we're at 460 megabytes per second right now. And again, the DiskMark one that I ran, it's not the same. It's not necessarily apples to apples, so this could be a little slower, a little faster than that one. Again, because I'm just copying big files over just to see the performance on those, and I'm not copying any smaller files. But we're at the high 400s here on the transfer rate, which is actually pretty good. And then if we were to go ahead and say transfer, let's just copy this file back onto our desktop, which has that Nvme drive on it, and it's going to transfer about the same. I don't know why it doesn't transfer faster, but you know, it's around 500 megabytes per second, going from the storage unit to the desktop, and from the desktop to the storage unit on these bigger files. All right, so let's see what the performance is over the network. Okay, so I'm just going to transfer this 9 gigabit file over, and right here on here, and I'm sorry this is small, and this is one thing I don't like about dark mode. It's going to be hard to see this, so I'll just let you know the speed that it's running at. So let's just drop this in here, and again, it's going to start quickly, but to get our true performance, and we started around 400 megabytes per second. But as we transfer this, and again, I'm using this, I have a 10 gigabit network card in here, and the network card in the mini PC is a 5 gigabit network card, and we are now at 265. So I think it's going to average around 260 to 270 megabytes per second. We've actually dropped a little lower to 250 on transferring that. And don't ask me why it's slower. Why is it more around the 500 gigabyte rate? What makes the difference of transferring this over through the network? I don't know why, but if we were to take that same file and let's just delete this, and then we'll transfer it over to my desktop, which is, again, I'm running Nvme on here. It's going to transfer at that full, as far as the networking card go. Remember, I'm using that USB 5 gigabit network card, and it's going to be around 450 megabytes per second. So I don't know why the transfer rate isn't a little higher, like 300 or 400, like it is when we're on the desktop itself. But that's the way. That's what's happening there, and it's basically the same. I'm not going to go to Windows because we get basically the same results. I don't know why, but anyway, but it's still a good result, regardless. Here, so when we copied a file from the desktop directly to the enclosure, we got about 400 megabytes write speed. But when we go through the network, for some reason, we're only getting about 250 to 300 megabytes write speed. And so I don't know what the bottleneck is copying a file over the network to the enclosure, but it's still not a bad performance. Okay, so now that we have those results, let's go ahead and go to the TerraMaster enclosure. Okay, now we're back on the desktop, and we're going to test out this TerraMaster. This is the mini PC that we have the enclosure hooked to, and so we're just going to copy this Nvme file over that's 30 gigabytes, just so that we can see what the true speed of this thing is. And what you're noticing is that it starts off at the speed, now we're at 400 megabytes per second, more than 400 megabytes. And just so you know, let me just show you the disk mark results here, why this is copying, because this will take a minute. So we have 5200 read speed, 352 write speeds. And so what you're going to notice here is that this is cruising right along, and it's kind of averaging around 400 megabytes per second. But let's see if it slows down at all during this process. And okay, so now we're seeing that it's starting to slow down. And this is the one thing that I've noticed about this particular machine is the Sabrent seemed to be better performance on writing these big files, because now we're already at the mid 200 megabytes per second, and that's not bad for these enclosures. But I was really hoping that the TerraMaster, especially with it being a 6-bay, would have at least the same performance as the Sabrent as far as copying those files over. But again, you know, if we copy something from our storage unit to the desktop, it's going to give us the same results as we've seen before, around 460, 470 megabytes per second. And so that stays the same. So let's just see what kind of performance we're going to get over the network. So let's jump on the other desktop. Okay, so again, I'm on my personal desktop, and again, my network in my house is 10 gigabit. So let's just go ahead and copy this Alita Battle Angel over, and let's see how it performs. And again, down here, where it's showing the network speed, unfortunately it only comes in dark mode. I can't change the mode of that, but we're hovering around 250 to 300 megabytes per second on copying this over. And this is the whole thing, is that it seemed like both machines, for some reason over the network, don't perform as good as directly from the desktop. And I don't know why that is, because it's not the network speed that's the issue. Let's wrap this up and I'll give my thoughts about all these machines. One of these to use is up to you. Obviously the Oracle is a great deal because it's only around $70 now, and maybe $75 for the Type C. And so again, everything depends on your use case. And if you don't need fast read speeds, and you just need consistent speed, then the Oracle's fine. And if you only have a 1 gig network and you're copying stuff to that with your 1 gig network, whatever PC you're using, have it attached to, it'll work great. But the TerraMasters are more high performance, and unfortunately I wish I could have tested that high performance Oracle out, but it really gave me cold feet when it wouldn't read 2 of my drives, and so I didn't reorder it. And so because I really wanted a price point around $150 to $180. But these units are great. They performed about the same. I really like the idea of the TerraMaster. There's not very many units that you can buy out there that are 6 drives. Usually you got 2, 4, 5 is usually how they come. And so and the performance was basically the same. The only difference I could see when I first set up the Server-NAS, when I copied from the desktop to the unit itself, it did copy and slow down eventually below 300 megabytes per second. But then when I made the video, it was always around 400 megabytes per second. I could not get that. Where the TerraMaster, you saw that it dropped below 300 megabytes per second on the larger file. But still, I like the performance of both of them. The advantage of the Server-NAS is that you can daisy chain 2 more units, and so you can have 3 units working together. I didn't test an individual drive, what the individual write speed was in these units. And the reason why I didn't do that, because I'm assuming if someone's going to get this unit, they're going to use 5 hard drives, and I want to see the performance of using all 5 hard drives in a RAID array. The other issue I ran into was with Windows. I don't know why this became an issue. When I tested copying from Windows over the network to the Server and the TerraMaster, I could not get any higher speed than 160 megabytes per second. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Windows did make an update. I don't know if it was that. To these drives, it should have been between 400 and 300 megabytes per second, just like it was using my Linux desktop. And so I don't know, because when I copied, and I thought maybe it was my my NIC, so I replaced the NIC, and I still had the same issue. Because when I copied to my video server, I was getting 10 gigabit speed. So anyway, that in a nutshell, I don't know why that happened, but I hope this was helpful. And obviously, which one of these you get, if you're looking at something like this, will depend on your needs. If you're video editing, if you're just making a video server, so on and so forth, using your laptop, your mini disk, or you just have a computer that you can use for a server, but you just don't have the hard drive space for that. These are great options. This is TJ with Tech Made Easy. Have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was easy.